Well, darkness has fallen on Afghanistan, forcing search teams to suspend rescue operations. The region was hit by a magnitude 6 earthquake that leveled villages and devastated the region. At least 800 people are dead, almost 3,000 more are injured, and there are fears that those numbers will only rise. The initial quake was followed by a number of powerful aftershocks. Many people are still trapped beneath the debris as search and rescue operations continue. The powerful quake was felt as far away as Islamabad, nearly 300 kilometers from the epicenter, which was just 27 kilometers from Jalalabad, which is Afghanistan's 5th largest city. The shallow quake sent intense tremors through 4 provinces in the east, hitting the mountainous region of Kunar the hardest. Susannah Walden is the Kabul Bureau Chief for AFP, and she tells us that rescue operations are now facing a number of challenges.
It's been a long day and took us a long time to actually get to some of the hardest hit places in Kunar province. But I'm here in the office in Kabul, but we did have teams on the ground in Kunar in Nurgal district, which is one of the worst hit. They were in a village in Wadir where our team was telling us that not a single family was untouched by this disaster. Every family had people who were injured or wounded. They described the devastation as absolutely astounding. No house was left standing or intact. And there were livestock and people who were still injured being shuttled out. But as you said, one of the most difficult things about this disaster is how remote these hard-hit villages are, and that's really slowed down the aid efforts.
It's now the middle of the night in Afghanistan. How does that impact any rescue operations?
Well, up until now, the injured have only been going out via helicopter. So helicopters are coming in every 15 to 30 minutes and bringing in bread and water and picking up injured and taking them out to Jalalabad and hospitals in Nangarhar. But as soon as the sun went down, they had to stop all of those helicopter journeys. And so for the time being, people are still stuck in Nurgal and in these villages that are really up in the mountains. And at the same time, throughout the whole day, there were aftershocks that were just causing panic and fear among the people who didn't know what to do and had lost their loved ones. It was really an incredibly desperate situation. And it's only probably going to get worse in the coming days in terms of the death tolls, and it's going to take a long time to clear the roads to be able to get aid to these really remote areas. And I mean, that unfortunately is a reality in Afghanistan. This is one of the biggest disasters that's happened recently, but in the past we've seen with a country that has suffered with endemic poverty and an economic crisis and a crisis of millions of people returning from neighboring countries. That is also exacerbated by massive aid cuts that mean there's even fewer people who can get aid to people who really desperately need it right now. So this is just compounding already difficult situations in the country.
Well, Susannah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, because it's not like everything was okay in Afghanistan and now this earthquake hit. I mean, this is a country where we did reports on CBC News Network of families being forced to sell their children so that there was enough money to feed their families. I mean, it is a dire situation, made more complicated by the fact that the Taliban is the ruling and governing party now. Let's talk about how aid would actually get distributed and what guarantees there would be that these aid organizations would be able to do their work unimpeded by the Taliban.
I think in terms of these disasters, we don't necessarily see impediments. I think at the moment, one of the bigger impediments is really the lack of funding. I mean, there were massive aid cuts this year, and this is the biggest disaster and the deadliest disaster since those aid cuts were in place. And so international aid organizations in the UN, who are still here but functioning with a lot more restricted budgets, are going to have to make really difficult choices about where that aid goes. There obviously are difficulties in working in this environment, and the international agencies and the UN have to navigate that. But as far as the main issue right now in the early days, it's mainly just the actual resources that are available and getting them to the people.
Susannah Walden is the Kabul Bureau Chief for AFP.